Number 10. DeSean Presley. DeSean Presley was shopping at a Kroger supermarket in Ohio with his 1-year-old daughter in 2021 when he crossed paths with 87-year-old Pat Goins. They engaged in a brief but pleasant chat before parting ways, and they both continued on with their shopping. However, moments later, Presley heard Goins scream, "My purse." He sprang into action without a second thought and chased down a thief who had grabbed the elderly woman's purse out of her cart. Thanks to Presley's quick response, he managed to stop the suspect before he was able to get into his car and drive away. Over a dozen other shoppers joined him in his efforts to apprehend the culprit, who police later identified as 58-year-old Derek Vaughn. Presley held Vaughn to the ground until police arrived. In the meantime, fellow shoppers who had stepped in to help ordered Vaughn to apologize to Goins. He did, and he was soon taken into custody on suspicion of felony theft and robbery. Butler County Sheriff Richard Jones recognized Presley's heroic actions by giving him the Citizens Award. Goins attended the ceremony and told Fox 11, "I'm glad that he received this honor because he's my hero." She and Presley became fast friends and made plans to catch up over dinner in the near future. Vaughn ended up pleading guilty to 1 count of theft, but it's unclear what his sentencing was. Number 9. Jenna Malone. While driving through Hollywood in April of 2022, actress Jenna Malone noticed a man kicking and choking a small dog. She yelled for him to stop out of her car window, but the suspect ignored her commands. Malone then got out of the vehicle and chased after the alleged animal abuser while signaling to a bystander to help her. 6 men soon joined the pursuit on foot and apprehended the suspect, at which point Malone retrieved her car and drove to the scene. Shocking footage shows the group of men beating and subduing the suspect while telling him that they were making a citizen's arrest. They held him down on the ground until police arrived. When asked about his treatment toward the dog, the man allegedly said that it was his mom's pet and that he was hitting the animal for disobeying him. In the meantime, Malone watched over the injured dog, a 6-year-old Maltipoo named Champion. In a tweet, she described the animal as filthy, like he hadn't been taken care of in months. Police charged the suspect with felony animal abuse, but declined to specify whether any of the men who made the citizen's arrest were charged as well. In the meantime, Champion was taken to an animal hospital where he received treatment for multiple broken bones. The dog's owner, Kelly McKinney, told the Washington Post that her son stole Champion from her, who was the man arrested in the case. A few weeks prior to the incident, McKinney had left her beloved canine in her brother's care while she went grocery shopping. Her son had been asking to see Champion, but she told him no because they were on bad terms and she apparently didn't trust his intentions. When McKinney returned, the dog was gone. And even though she said her son stole Champion, she was shocked to learn that he was capable of abusing him. And while McKinney felt that the beating of her son was excessive, Malone believed that Champion was going to die if someone didn't intervene immediately. However, she was apologetic that the citizen's arrest ended in a brawl. Number 8. Cray Turman. In 2017, 39-year-old Donald Songster Brown allegedly entered a gas station in Columbia, South Carolina, and punched a clerk in the face before threatening her and another customer at knife point. He was also accused of not allowing the victims to leave. Brown eventually exited the store and was approached by Officer Ashley Hardesty, who later described him as acting irate. Hardesty repeatedly told the suspect to stop resisting arrest and to follow her commands, but he didn't listen. She then tried to tackle Brown to the ground, but he pushed her and the two began to wrestle as the officer struggled to gain control of the situation. As a civilian named Cray Turman approached the scene, he saw that Hardesty was still unable to apprehend Brown despite spraying him with mace and tasing him. Turman waited until the opportunity was right, then tackled the suspect himself, allowing Hardesty to finally take him into custody. Police Chief Skip Holbrook presented the Good Samaritan with a certificate acknowledging his heroic deed, along with some gift cards. At the time, Turman was living at a shelter after getting sober. He told local station WSOC that he was glad that this time he wasn't on the other end of the law. Officer Hardesty also expressed her gratitude, and a crowdfunding campaign was set up to help Turman get back on his feet. Number 7. Lukewadiuk. By the time police in Pueblo, Colorado arrived at the scene of a reported theft in August of 2022, they found the suspect, Nicholas Quintana, handcuffed to a truck. Standing nearby was Lukewadiuk, who told the officers that as soon as he noticed someone stealing tools at a Home Depot store, he chased after the alleged thief and made a citizen's arrest. The responding officers issued Quintana a ticket to appear at a later court date and released him. They later told local station KRDO that they had to look up the laws revolving around citizens' arrest to determine whether they were required to arrest Wadiuk for detaining Quintana. Speaking to 13 Investigates, Wadiuk said that he wasn't trying to hurt the suspect, but that he felt it was his duty to step in when he saw a crime being committed. He further explained that Pueblo citizens were getting tired of criminals wreaking havoc on the area and getting away with it. Wadiuk was cleared of any wrongdoing, but cautioned fellow citizens against addressing situations the same way he did. He said that because he worked as a car repossessor, he was familiar with how to handle potentially dangerous situations and people. Number 6. Flight Fiasco. 22-year-old Maxwell Berry was accused of robbing a flight attendant's backside with an empty beverage cup during a Frontier Airlines flight from Miami to Philadelphia in 2021. He already had one alcoholic beverage and was asking for another when he made the violating gesture. The flight attendant told Berry not to touch her, but his inappropriate actions continued. A short while later, he spilled his new drink on himself and emerged from the restroom shirtless. Another stewardess helped him get a new shirt out of his carry-on bag, and Berry's behavior became increasingly disruptive throughout the flight. He allegedly groped 2 flight attendants and punched a male crew member who was trying to get him under control. Passengers stepped in and helped as employees wrestled Berry into a seat and duct-taped him to it. He remained uncooperative, screaming for help and yelling that his parents were worth $2 million, at which point crew members taped his mouth shut. Viral footage of the bizarre outburst shows Berry trying to free himself from the improvised restraints. For his actions, he was charged with 3 counts of assault. He initially maintained his innocence on social media, describing the incident as the most dehumanizing experience of his life. But Berry changed his tune toward the end of his trial when he pleaded guilty to all charges. He received a 60-day jail sentence, followed by a year of probation as a result. Number 5. Kevin Holland. MMA fighter Kevin Holland and fellow athlete Patrick Robinson were out for a late dinner in Houston one night in early 2022 when someone fired a shot in the air near the restaurant's bar. Holland and Robinson, along with another customer, immediately rushed over and apprehended the suspect. Thanks to their diligent response, none of the 40 to 50 patrons inside the restaurant at the time were injured. Police arrested the 24-year-old suspect, who reportedly had a warrant for failing to appear in court for a previous charge. This was the second time Holland made news headlines for taking down an accused criminal. Just months earlier, in late 2021, he chased after an alleged carjacker with his vehicle. During the pursuit, Holland called his coach, Chuck Dorsey, and asked for his help catching the suspect. Dorsey later told MMA Junkie that he could hear cars turning corners during the conversation. Once the chase came to an end, Holland ran after the suspect on foot and quickly caught up to him. He tripped the man and then held him down until police arrived. Footage of the encounter shows Holland calmly restraining the accused car thief as a police officer approaches and takes him into custody. Dorsey said that it wasn't unusual for Holland to spring into action in order to help someone in need. Number 4. Nathan Smith. In 2019, residents of a neighborhood in Bristol, England, were terrorized by a string of thefts and break-ins that the police allegedly failed to investigate thoroughly, despite receiving numerous complaints. After noticing a suspected burglary in progress one night, a live-in caregiver named Nathan Smith tackled the serial thief to the ground and held him there for 12 minutes until police arrived. During that time, the suspect, later identified as 43-year-old Craig Wiltshire, pleaded with Smith to ease up on the pressure he was putting on his body. Smith refused, believing that Wiltshire was pretending to be in distress so he could gain an opportunity to escape. By the time police arrived, the thief was unconscious. Police body cam footage showed Smith telling officers that Wiltshire had spit, spat at, and tried kicking him during the citizen's arrest. Wiltshire died 2 weeks later in the hospital, prompting allegations that Smith acted out of anger and was trying to physically punish the man for his alleged crimes. Authorities charged Smith with manslaughter. At his trial, he claimed he was unaware that Wiltshire had a pre-existing heart condition, which made him especially vulnerable to the effects of being held down. Smith also argued that he didn't realize the position he held Wiltshire in could be fatal to a person after a prolonged period of time. A medical examiner ruled that Wiltshire's death resulted from cardiac arrest and brain damage. During Smith's trial, restraint technique expert Jason Payne James testified that he believed the defendant used reasonable force. He explained that considering the level of knowledge that Smith could be expected to have as a person who's not trained in subduing suspects, he acted accordingly. A jury acquitted Smith in what Detective Superintendent James Riccio described as a sensitive and complicated case. Although the citizen's arrest was deemed legal, Riccio urged civilians to contact the police and let them handle suspected thefts whenever possible. Number 3. Eric Barksdale. During the summer of 2022, thefts of Kia and Hyundai vehicles in the US nearly tripled thanks to a group of thieves who called themselves the Kia Boys. These criminals are known to make TikTok videos teaching people how to start certain models of cars with a USB cord. The trend seems to have originated in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, before spreading to other parts of the country. While driving in Milwaukee one day in June, right as the theft started soaring to concerning levels, Eric Barksdale crashed into a Kia going the wrong direction on a one-way street. After hitting Barksdale's vehicle head-on and colliding with a truck, a group of teenagers ditched the car and fled the scene on foot. However, one injured young man involved in the crime didn't get very far. Barksdale later explained to local station WISN that the teen was clearly in no position to run. He told the suspect to lie down and wait for help to arrive, as he instructed another bystander to hold him in place. Police soon showed up and arrested the young man. During his interview with WISN, Barksdale said that he always told himself he'd never have a run-in with the Kia Boys, but that the collision was unavoidable. He also shared his thoughts about how the criminals don't understand the potential consequences of their risky behavior. Now that Barksdale's been victimized, he wants to be a part of slowing down the dangerous trend. Number 2. MMA fighters pursue thief. More than a dozen MMA fighters were working out at a gym in Perth, Australia in April of 2022 when one of them got an alert on his phone that someone had used his debit card at a nearby store. Realizing that a thief had broken into his car and took his belongings, the victim and his fellow athlete set out in pursuit of the suspect. They stopped at the store where the debit card was used and got a description of the suspect from an employee before continuing their search. By the time the men caught up with the alleged thief, about 20 minutes later, he was wearing a pair of brand new shoes. One of the men who participated in the chase, Rommel Luistro, told Today that the suspect was threatening to beat them up. However, he was clearly no match against 15 trained MMA fighters who held him in place until police arrived. Luistro credited the athlete's training with their ability to detain the man without hurting him. He pointed out that this is just one of the real-life benefits that comes with their chosen sport. The suspect of the crime was taken into custody and is currently waiting for his next court date. Number 1. Civilians versus cell phone thief. As a masked man dressed in all black ran through the streets of London one day in 2022, civilians heard someone yell, "Trip him up." A quick-thinking bystander followed the command and swiftly took down the suspected phone thief in what's been described as a huge rugby tackle. As the two men struggled on the pavement, a middle-aged woman came over and put the suspect in a chokehold to prevent him from getting away. In the meantime, another witness attempted to calm the thief down while a curious crowd gathered around them, and people began to ask what was going on. The victim got their stolen phone back, and by the time police arrived, the suspect and the man who had tackled him were gone. No arrests were made, and according to their most recent update, the police were still investigating the incident. If a thief broke into your home, would you rather try and take them down by yourself, or would you wait for police to arrive and handle the situation? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and while you're at it, hit that subscribe button.